There is a force so powerful that it can shape destinies, build empires, and turn the ordinary into the extraordinary. It is not wealth, physical strength, or intelligence. It is something more subtle, yet deeply transformational. The power of affirmation. But a person hears consistently, especially from those closest to them, has the power to shape their self-perception, influence their actions, and determine the trajectory of their life. This is particularly true for men. Society often focuses on the emotional needs of women, recognizing their desire for love, security, and affirmation. But what is rarely discussed is the emotional fuel that men need. Words that validate, strengthen, and affirm their worth. A man may appear strong on the outside, but internally he faces battles that no one sees. From the time he is a boy, he is told to be strong, man up, and never show weakness. He is taught to provide, to protect, to lead, but rarely is he reminded that he is enough. And so, while he goes through life carrying the weight of expectations, there is often one silent question that lingers in his mind. Am I doing enough? This is why affirmation is not just beneficial to a man, it is essential. When a man hears words that affirm his value, his strength, and his ability, something shifts inside of him. He begins to walk differently, think differently, and even love differently. But the tragedy is that many men go through life without ever hearing the words they truly long for. What most people don't realize is that men are deeply influenced by the voices that matter to them. A man can receive praise from the entire world, but if the person closest to him, his wife, his partner, or even his mother, does not affirm him, he will still feel inadequate. On the other hand, a man can face criticism from every direction, but if the woman he loves looks him in the eyes and says, "I believe in you," he will find the strength to keep going. Men do not simply want to be appreciated for what they do, they want to be affirmed for who they are. They do not just want to be noticed for their success, they want to be seen for their effort. And yet, many men go through life feeling unseen, unheard, and unappreciated because the words that could lift them up are never spoken. Think about the greatest men in history, the ones who built nations, led revolutions, and transformed the world. Behind many of them was a voice of affirmation. Whether it was a mother, a wife, or a mentor, there was someone who spoke life into them, who reminded them of their worth when the world doubted them. Now, imagine the men in your own life. How often do they hear words that build them up instead of words that tear them down? Many women assume that men don't need encouragement, that their confidence is unshakable. But the truth is, men are human. They battle doubts, fears, and insecurities just like everyone else. The difference is that they are often expected to suppress them, and because they rarely express their need for affirmation, many women never realize how much power their words hold. When a man hears affirmation from the woman he loves, it does more than make him feel good, it activates something in him. He becomes more confident in his leadership, more intentional in his love, and more determined in his purpose. He starts to believe in himself because someone he values believes in him. But the absence of affirmation can have the opposite effect. A man who never hears words of encouragement may start to question his worth. He may work harder and harder trying to prove himself, yet still feel like it's never enough. And over time, he may withdraw emotionally, not because he doesn't care, but because he feels unseen. The truth is, affirmation is not just about words. It's about life-giving words. It's about speaking to the king in a man, not the flaws in him. It's about choosing to see his potential rather than his shortcomings. When a woman affirms a man, she is not just boosting his ego. She is strengthening his spirit. She is giving him the courage to fight battles she may never even see. So what are the words that men long to hear? I appreciate you. I see how hard you're working. I trust you. I believe in you. These words, when spoken with sincerity, have the power to change a man's life. And the beauty of affirmation is that it does not cost anything. It requires no money, no grand gestures, just a willingness to see the good in a man and speak it out loud. The challenge, however, is that many women assume that men already know how they feel. They think, he knows I appreciate him, or he doesn't need to hear it. But the truth is, unspoken gratitude is invisible, unspoken appreciation is unheard. No matter how strong a man appears, he still needs to hear that he is valued. If you want to see the best in a man, speak to the best in him. If you want him to rise, speak words that lift him up. If you want him to lead with confidence, let him know that you trust him. Because a man who feels affirmed will not only become stronger, he will love more deeply, lead more boldly, and live with greater purpose. And so, I leave you with this thought. Be intentional with your words. Don't assume he knows. Tell him. Be the voice that builds him, not the one that breaks him. Because when a man hears affirmation, he doesn't just feel good for a moment. He becomes better for a lifetime. Love is a beautiful thing, but for a man, love alone is not enough. A man does not just want to be loved, he wants to be respected. This is a truth that many fail to recognize, yet it holds the key to unlocking the full potential of a man's heart, mind, and spirit. A woman may love a man deeply, but if she does not show him respect, he will feel empty. On the other hand, even if her love is not expressed as often, but she respects him, he will feel valued, empowered, and deeply connected to her. From the time he is young, a man is conditioned to seek achievement, to prove himself, to earn his place in the world. He is taught to strive, to lead, and to overcome. But beneath all of that, his deepest emotional need is simple. He longs to be respected. This is not about arrogance or dominance. It is about feeling valued for who he is and what he brings to the table. Most women instinctively know how to express love, but respect is a language that many do not realize is even more vital for a man's well-being. A woman may shower a man with affection, care for him, and do things that demonstrate her love, yet if she speaks to him with contempt, questions his ability to lead, or belittles his decisions, he will not feel loved at all. Instead, he will feel inadequate, frustrated, and disconnected. This is where many relationships struggle. A woman may think she is loving her man by being affectionate or supportive, but if she does not respect him in her words, actions, and attitude, he will begin to shut down. A man's heart is fueled by respect, in the same way a woman's heart is fueled by love. When a man feels respected, he is naturally drawn closer. He becomes more attentive, more affectionate, and more devoted. But when he feels disrespected, he begins to withdraw, not because he does not care, but because he feels like he is not enough. Many times, disrespect does not come in obvious forms. It is not just about yelling, criticizing, or dismissing his opinions. It can be subtle, rolling the eyes when he speaks, second-guessing every decision he makes, talking down to him in front of others, or constantly reminding him of his failures. Over time, these small acts can chip away at a man's confidence, making him feel as though he is not valued in his own home. This is not to say that a woman should never challenge a man or express her concerns. Respect does not mean blind obedience or silence. But there is a way to communicate that builds up instead of tearing down. A man is more likely to listen, to lead with wisdom, and to love deeply when he knows that the woman beside him believes in him. The moment he feels that she has lost respect for him, he may start to question himself, his ability, and even the relationship itself. There is something powerful about a woman who understands the weight of her words. When she speaks to a man with respect, even in moments of disagreement, she can inspire him to become better. When she acknowledges his efforts rather than only pointing out his shortcomings, she gives him the motivation to keep striving. When she lets him know that she trusts his leadership, he will do everything in his power to prove himself worthy of that trust. Respect is not about making a man feel superior. It is about making him feel significant. Every man wants to know that his presence matters, that his work is appreciated, that his leadership is trusted. When a woman gives a man respect, he will naturally respond with more love, more care, and more devotion. Some women may say, "I will respect him when he earns it." But respect is not something that should only be given when a man is perfect. Just as a woman desires love even when she is not at her best, a man desires respect even when he is still growing. A woman's respect does not mean she ignores his flaws, but it means she chooses to see his strengths, to encourage his potential, and to speak life into him rather than constantly highlighting his weaknesses. When a man feels respected, he is more likely to rise to the occasion. He begins to walk with confidence, to make better decisions, and to lead with wisdom. A respected man is a better husband, a better father, and a better leader. But when a man feels constantly disrespected, he may start to retreat, to shut down, or even to look for respect elsewhere. This is why some men will work tirelessly in their careers but disengage at home. At work, they feel respected for their skills and contributions. They are honored for their leadership, their problem solving, and their ability to provide. But if they come home and feel dismissed, criticized, or unappreciated, they may unconsciously gravitate toward the place where they feel valued. This is not an excuse for neglecting responsibilities at home, but it explains why some men pour their energy into work rather than their relationships. Because respect is the fuel that drives them. If a woman truly wants to win a man's heart, she must understand that respect is his love language. It is not enough to simply say, "I love you." He needs to hear, "I trust you." He needs to know that his efforts are noticed, that his leadership is valued, that his voice matters. A woman who learns to speak the language of respect will unlock a level of love, devotion, and loyalty from a man that cannot be forced in any other way. Because when a man feels respected, he will do everything in his power to make sure the woman in his life feels loved. And so the question is not whether a man needs love or respect more. He needs both. But for a man, love without respect feels empty. And when a woman learns to respect the man she loves, she will experience a deeper, stronger, and more fulfilling relationship than she ever imagined. Every person seeks validation in some way, but for a man, validation is not just about feeling good. It is about finding purpose. A man's sense of direction, his confidence in his ability to lead, and his willingness to take on challenges are all fueled by the validation he receives, especially from those closest to him. Many people assume that men are naturally confident, that they do not need reassurance, that they can simply push forward without needing anyone to affirm them. But beneath the surface, even the strongest man carries doubts, insecurities, and silent battles that no one sees. He may not express it, and he may not even realize it himself, but deep down, every man wants to know that he is doing well. He wants to hear that his efforts matter, that his sacrifices are recognized, and that he is fulfilling his role as a leader, a provider, and a protector. Validation is not about feeding a man's ego, it is about reinforcing his purpose. When a man receives validation, it strengthens his resolve to keep going, to push harder, to overcome obstacles. But when he feels invalidated, when his efforts go unnoticed, when his sacrifices are taken for granted, or when he is constantly criticized, he begins to lose motivation. He may still go through the motions, but the fire inside him starts to fade. Many women assume that a man does not need validation because he does not ask for it. Unlike women, who often express their emotions and seek reassurance, men are taught to suppress their feelings. From a young age, they are told to be tough, to not show weakness, to figure things out on their own. Because of this, many men do not know how to communicate their need for validation. Instead, they wait for it to come naturally, hoping that the people they love will see their efforts without them having to say a word. This is why a simple statement like, "I see how hard you're working," or "I appreciate what you do for us," can mean the world to a man. It is not that he needs constant praise, but rather that he wants to know that his work, his struggles, and his sacrifices are not in vain. When a man hears these words, it does something inside of him. It gives him the energy to keep going, the confidence to make decisions, and the drive to pursue his purpose with even greater determination. But the absence of validation can have the opposite effect. When a man feels like his efforts are never acknowledged, he may begin to question why he even tries. If he is constantly met with criticism rather than appreciation, he may start to feel like nothing he does is ever good enough. And when a man reaches that point, he may begin to disengage, not because he does not care, but because he feels like his presence does not make a difference. This is one of the reasons why some men bury themselves in work, in hobbies, or in distractions. It is not that they do not want to be present in their relationships or their families. It is that they do not feel needed in the way they desire to be. A man does not just want to be tolerated. He wants to be valued. He does not just want to be told what he is doing wrong. He wants to be reminded of what he is doing right. Validation does not mean ignoring a man's flaws or pretending he is perfect. It does not mean avoiding necessary conversations about growth and improvement, but it does mean recognizing his efforts and letting him know that he is seen, that he is appreciated, and that he is making a difference. A man who is validated becomes a man of purpose. He walks with confidence. He leads with wisdom. He gives his best, not because he is trying to prove himself, but because he knows that his efforts matter. But a man who feels invalidated begins to shrink. He may lose his ambition. He may stop trying as hard. And over time, he may even lose his sense of direction. This is why the words spoken to a man are so important. The world is quick to tell a man where he falls short. He already faces pressure, expectations, and competition in every area of his life. But when he comes home, when he is with the people he loves, that should be the place where he feels reinforced, where he feels like he is enough. A woman who understands this will unlock something powerful in her man. When she speaks life into him, when she validates his role, when she acknowledges his contributions, she is not just making him feel good, she is fueling his purpose. And a man who feels purposeful will give everything he has to the people who make him feel that way. It does not take much to validate a man. It is in the small moments, the thank you after a long day, the recognition of his effort, the encouragement when he is uncertain. These things may seem minor, but to a man they are everything. When a man knows that the people closest to him see his efforts, he will keep pushing, keep striving, keep leading. He will rise to the challenge. He will take responsibility. He will become the best version of himself. But when he feels like nothing he does is ever enough, he may begin to lose his way. And when a man loses his sense of purpose, he is no longer fully present, not in his relationships, not in his work, not in his own life. So if you want to see a man rise, if you want to see him become the leader he was meant to be, if you want to bring out the best in him, speak words of validation. Let him know that his presence matters. Let him know that his efforts are seen. Let him know that his sacrifices do not go unnoticed. Because when a man is validated, he does not just feel better, he becomes better. He steps fully into his purpose and he gives his best to the people who believe in him. There is a cry that echoes within the heart of every man, yet it is rarely heard. It is not spoken in words, nor is it expressed through open emotion. Instead, it is hidden beneath the surface, buried beneath the weight of responsibility, expectation, and silent struggles. This cry is not one of weakness, but of longing. Longing to be seen, to be valued, to be understood. From a young age, men are conditioned to suppress their emotions. They are taught that strength means silence, that asking for help is a sign of failure, and that their worth is measured by what they achieve rather than who they are. While women are often encouraged to express their emotions, to seek support, and to lean on others, men are told to man up, to push through, and to handle their struggles alone. Because of this, many men carry burdens that no one ever sees, fighting silent battles that no one ever acknowledges. A man may go through life projecting confidence, but beneath that exterior, he often wrestles with doubts, fears, and insecurities. He questions whether he is doing enough, whether he is providing enough, whether he is truly making a difference. Yet he rarely speaks of these concerns, not because he does not want to, but because he does not know how, or worse, because he fears that if he does, he will be judged as weak. The world often misunderstands men. It assumes that because they do not express their emotions in the same way as women, they do not have deep emotional needs. But the truth is, a man feels just as deeply as anyone else. He just expresses it differently. Instead of talking about his struggles, he may work harder. Instead of asking for help, he may retreat into silence. Instead of showing his pain, he may mask it with humor, busyness, or even frustration. Yet, behind the silence, there is a cry, a longing for appreciation, for respect, for reassurance, a longing to hear, "I see you, I appreciate you, you matter," a longing to be more than just a provider, more than just someone who carries the weight of responsibility? Many women assume that because a man does not verbalize his needs, he does not have them. But unspoken needs are still real needs. Just because a man does not ask for affirmation does not mean he does not crave it. Just because he does not say he is struggling does not mean he is not carrying a heavy load. And just because he does not express his emotions in words does not mean he does not feel deeply. A man may receive praise from the outside world, at work, among friends, in his community, but what he longs for most is validation from those closest to him. The words of a wife, a mother, a sister, or a partner carry a weight that no other words can. A man can be admired by many, but if he does not feel appreciated by the woman he loves, he will still feel empty. Conversely, a man can be criticized by the world, but if he knows that the people he loves believe in him, he will stand tall. The tragedy is that many men go through life feeling unseen. They work hard, they sacrifice, they give their best. Yet they rarely hear thank you. Instead, they are met with expectations. Expectations to do more, to be more, to never slow down. And when a man feels like his best is never enough, he begins to shut down, not because he does not care, but because he feels like nothing he does truly matters. This is why so many men find validation in their work, in their achievements, in their ability to provide. Not because these things define them, but because they are often the only areas where they receive recognition. A man who feels unappreciated at home may throw himself into his career, not because he loves work more than his family, but because work gives him a sense of purpose that he may not feel elsewhere. But at his core, a man does not just want to be valued for what he does. He wants to be valued for who he is. He wants to know that his worth is not just in his paycheck, his strength, or his ability to provide, but in his presence, his character, his love. He wants to know that he is enough. Even when he is not perfect, even when he is tired, even when he does not have all the answers. The silent cry of every man is simple. See me, appreciate me, believe in me. He may never say it out loud. He may never ask for it directly, but if he receives it, he will thrive. And if he does not, a part of him will always feel incomplete. A woman who understands this has the power to unlock something extraordinary in a man. When she speaks life into him, when she acknowledges his sacrifices, when she reassures him that he is doing well, she gives him a strength that no amount of success or money can provide. She becomes the voice that lifts him when the world tries to break him. She becomes the safe place where he can be himself, not just a provider, not just a protector, but a man with dreams, emotions, and a heart that longs to be seen. The challenge is that this kind of validation cannot be forced. It must be given freely, sincerely, and consistently. It is in the small things, the way she speaks to him, the way she acknowledges his efforts, the way she believes in him, even when he doubts himself. It is not about grand gestures, but about daily reminders that he is enough. When a man feels this kind of support, he will give everything he has to the people who provide it. He will love more deeply, lead with more confidence, and fight harder for his purpose. Because when a man feels seen, when he feels valued, when he knows that his silent cries are answered, he becomes unstoppable. And so, the question is not whether a man needs validation, he does. The real question is, will the people he loves be the ones to give it, or will he spend his life searching for it elsewhere? There is something almost every woman overlooks when it comes to understanding men, not because she does not care, but because she has never been taught to see it. She may love deeply, she may give selflessly, she may try everything in her power to make a relationship work, but if she does not recognize this one thing, she may still find herself frustrated, wondering why her efforts are not enough. Most women naturally express love in the way they want to receive it. They give affection, attention, and care because these are the things that make them feel valued. They assume that if a man loves them, he will want the same things. But what many women overlook is that love alone is not always what fuels a man. Respect, validation, and belief in him are often even more important. A woman may pour her heart into loving a man, yet if she unknowingly disrespects him with her words, her actions, or even her tone, He will begin to feel disconnected. She may think she is helping by offering constant advice or correcting his decisions, but to a man, this can feel like doubt rather than support. She may believe she is motivating him by pointing out where he can improve, but if all he hears is criticism, he may start to shut down. What many women overlook is that a man's deepest need is not just to be loved. It is to be respected, to be believed in, to be seen as capable and worthy. He needs to know that the woman in his life trusts him, values his efforts, and sees his strength even when he struggles. When a woman acknowledges his hard work, his sacrifices, and his leadership, she ignites something powerful in him. He becomes more attentive, more committed, more willing to give his best. But when a man feels like nothing he does is ever enough, when he feels like he is constantly being questioned or corrected, when he feels unappreciated despite his efforts, he may begin to pull away. He may still be physically present, but emotionally he starts to retreat, not because he does not care, but because he feels like his presence does not truly matter. This is where many relationships struggle. A woman may feel like she is doing everything right, yet the man in her life seems distant. She may not realize that while she is giving love in the way she understands, she is missing the key ingredient that fuels him. A man wants to be a hero in the eyes of the woman he loves. He does not need perfection, but he does need to feel like he is enough. He wants to know that his efforts are noticed, that his presence makes a difference, that he is not just an obligation but an asset to her life. What most women overlook is that men thrive on appreciation more than they do on affection. A woman may think that saying "I love you" is enough, but what a man really needs to hear is "I appreciate you." He needs to know that his hard work is recognized, that his leadership is trusted, that his sacrifices are not taken for granted. Many women assume that if a man is struggling, he will speak up, but most men will not. Instead, they will suffer in silence, hiding their stress, their doubts, and their disappointments because they do not want to appear weak. This is why so many men carry unspoken burdens, feeling the weight of responsibility, yet never voicing their fears. A woman who understands this will not wait for a man to ask for encouragement. She will give it freely. She will notice the small things he does and acknowledge them. She will remind him that he is doing well, that his presence matters, that she trusts him even when he doubts himself. She will learn to speak his language not just with words, but with actions that show him she believes in him. This is not about ignoring a man's faults or never challenging him. A strong woman will hold a man to high standards, but she will do it in a way that builds him up rather than tearing him down. She will know that her words have power. The power to either inspire him or discourage him. What most women overlook is that men do not just want love. They want to be needed. They want to know that they have a place, that their role is valued, that their efforts make a difference. A man who feels needed will give everything he has to the woman who makes him feel that way. When a woman understands this, she unlocks a different level of connection. She becomes not just a partner, but an inspiration. She brings out the best in him not by demanding it, but by believing in it before he even sees it himself. A man who feels this kind of support will never take it for granted. He will protect, provide, and pour into the relationship in ways that go beyond what words can express. Because when a man feels truly seen, when he feels validated and respected, he will give his heart, his loyalty, and his very best to the woman who made him feel that way. A man may have strength, ambition, and vision, but there is something about the voice of the woman in his life that has the power to either elevate him or diminish him. The words of a woman carry weight, especially in the heart of the man who loves her. When she speaks life into him, he rises. When she tears him down, he shrinks. A king does not just rise because of his own will. He rises when the woman beside him sees him as one. Many women desire a strong, confident, and purpose-driven man. They want a leader, a protector, a provider, someone who stands tall and walks with authority. But what many overlook is that the strength of a man is deeply connected to the way he is spoken to and spoken about. A man may have all the potential in the world, but if the woman closest to him constantly questions, doubts, or criticizes him, he may never fully step into who he was meant to be. A king is not made by his crown alone. He is made by the way he is affirmed, encouraged, and believed in. If a man is always met with correction but never appreciation, he will begin to doubt himself. If he is constantly reminded of his failures but never of his strengths, he will start to withdraw. If he feels like nothing he does is ever enough, he may stop trying altogether, not because he does not care, but because he feels that his efforts are in vain. The voice of a woman can be a man's greatest source of strength or his deepest source of discouragement. When a woman speaks to a man with respect, admiration, and belief in his abilities, she activates something in him. He feels the need to rise, to live up to the trust she places in him, to push past his limits because someone sees greatness in him. But when she speaks to him with doubt, criticism, or constant dissatisfaction, he begins to feel like he is failing no matter what he does. Many men are silently carrying the weight of their responsibilities, their fears, and their unspoken insecurities. They may never say it out loud, but they long to hear that they are enough, that their efforts are seen, that the woman they love believes in them. A man who is validated in this way does not just feel better, he becomes better. He begins to move differently, make decisions with confidence, and step fully into his role as a leader. But when a man is constantly doubted, when his every move is questioned, when he feels like he is always being corrected but never praised, he starts to feel small. He may still go through the motions, but inside he feels like his presence does not truly matter. And when a man reaches that point, he begins to disengage, not because he does not love, but because he feels like he has lost his place. A woman who understands this has the power to unlock the best in her man. She does not have to flatter him with empty words, but she does need to recognize his efforts. She does not have to ignore his flaws, but she should also celebrate his strengths. She does not have to agree with everything he does, but she should trust his ability to lead and grow. When a woman speaks to a man as if he is already a king, he begins to carry himself like one. He becomes more responsible, more protective, more committed, not because he is being forced to, but because he feels a deep sense of purpose. He does not just want to do better. He needs to do better because he sees himself through the eyes of the woman who believes in him. But the opposite is also true. If a man is constantly treated like he is not enough, he will begin to shrink. If he is always told what he is doing wrong, but never what he is doing right, he will stop trying as hard. If he feels like he is more of a burden than a blessing, he will eventually pull away, not always physically, but emotionally. The way a woman speaks to a man can either make him feel like he is winning in life or like he is failing no matter what he does. And when a man feels like he is winning, he gives more, he loves harder, and he leads with confidence. But when he feels like he is failing, he may start to withdraw, lose motivation, or seek validation elsewhere. This is why the voice of a woman is so powerful. It has the ability to build a man up in ways that no one else can. The world may doubt him, but if the woman in his life believes in him, he will find the strength to keep going. The world may criticize him, but if she reassures him, he will push through. The world may not see his worth, but if she does, he will rise to the occasion. A woman who speaks life into her man will never lose him. She will see him give his best, not because she demands it, but because he wants to, because he feels valued, because he feels trusted, because he feels like the king she sees in him. A king does not rise by himself. He rises when the queen beside him reminds him who he is, when she believes in him before he even fully believes in himself, when she speaks to the king in him, not just the man in front of her. Because when a man feels respected, validated, and trusted, he does not just become better, he becomes unstoppable.